Yeah, just on the, I hope this one comes through.
I have no idea.
About 10%.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, okay.
We have a couple announcements for tonight. The first one is the coronavirus update. So currently in Essex County, there are 6 cases, 6 positive cases. Since March, we've had a total of 182, and currently there are 2 in Ticonderoga. So please continue to wear your masks and social distance, and follow the other CDC guidelines. The census update. Ticonderoga currently has 48.5% of its population responding for the census. In Essex County, I think it's a little less than that. We have just the month of September really to get those numbers up. So the push right now is to try to hit the numbers that we hit in 2010. So in 2010, Ticonderoga had a 60% self-response rate. So that's our goal for this month, if not higher. And the last item, we have open dump days. As some of you may recall, back in May, when we typically have the beautification cleanup week, we usually offer free dump services to the residents in the town. Those were postponed because of coronavirus, and we are reinstating that for this month on September the 15th, 16th, and 17th. That's next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They're limiting it this year just to 1 trip per household. And of course, senior citizens and those who have qualified disabilities can contact the highway department to arrange for pickup. And there is more information and flyer on the website. Of course, there are restrictions too. No hazardous materials. We just had hazardous waste day. There's only 1 this year that was offered in Lake Placid, Lewis. Anyways, it finished last week. So hopefully people will take advantage of this opportunity to kind of do a little fall clean-out at the end of the summer. And with that, there are no presentations or board report. We'll move into public comment. Anyone who would like to speak and do so, just please come up here, state your name, and try to limit it to about 2 minutes.
A couple questions, Joe. Has there been any progress on the study to look at one way from Amherst? Where is that now?
That was looked at. I don't know that we probably.
We had a suggestion,
Resurrect.
which wasn't really a good one. They talked about making it one way from St. Mary's. You had to, it's one way from Father Joke's up to Iroquois. And that didn't,
Just the
yeah, and then that, but the problem with that was the Iroquois access isn't very easy, especially when St. Mary's is just missing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so probably.
We've considered other things too. You're welcome to join in and give your thoughts on it too. Making it one way, the whole way,
Right.
parking on one side only.
Right.
Those things have all.
Okay, I was just curious if they come back with anything.
Yeah.
The other thing, at the last water sewer meeting, they had that proposal that you asked you to throw at the engineers about, building a filtration plant up in Eagle Lake and connecting to existing pipes. Has that been thrown at the engineers yet? Look at maybe what the risk of that is in terms of cost or anything?
For the Eagle Lake and Chilson?
Yeah, for building, he had mentioned, let's build a filtration plant there, use existing pipes instead of repiping everything. And I know there's probably some risk of that, failure and structural integrity of the pipes and stuff. Has that been thrown in?
The other issue that you have is that, and this wasn't really brought up, I think at the meeting, I think we talked about it afterwards, but currently Gooseneck, in the past, Gooseneck has provided the major water source, or one of the major water sources for the town. The flow rate was pretty significant. For just the 110 users that are there, it's going to be comparison. So one of the issues that the existing pipe, which is not completely submerged, is the potential for freezing.
Right.
You know, that was just one of them. So, you know, they can look at it, you know, I think they've kind of gone through all the different analysis and provided what they felt were the three most logical, you know, options. None of them were, you can see by here at the meeting, a lot of them were pretty costly.
Right.
So, you know,
So that was probably considered already by the engineers, or?
that, like a lot of other ones, you know, there's certain limitations because of, you know, the consent decree and what the Department of Justice has limited us to being able to do, so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, that's all I have, thanks.
uh,
Ian Tierney, I'm here representing Garrison Gym. Garrison Gym has faced several hardships in the past several months due to COVID and a number of other things. I was curious if leasing the Armory building was available. I'm kind of run out of options for space in town, and obviously need your approval for that. But it's kind of where I'm at right now.
Which building did you say, I'm sorry?
The Armory building?
Oh. I don't know that.
well, we hadn't been thinking, we talked to you, I know David spoke to you at the time. I think we can bring that one up for conversation at some point, but you're looking to operate, I guess, where? You know the Armory layout?
Yeah, I haven't actually been in the basement. I know is it the seniors that are in the basement?
And the after-school program also.
And,
Okay.
and also, there's quite a
We
few.
have to.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sit there.
so is anybody in the, main floor of the building or not?
There have been, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the teen center.
What's that?
That was the teen center,
Okay, so I know, was that through YMCA?
yes.
Okay, so I know there's a little bit of kind of rocky ground for that right now. So here's the thing, the Garrison Gym would certainly be willing to work with them. I mean, I definitely wouldn't be kicking anyone out if I was allowed to lease the space, even if I had to block off, certain hours a week for, senior usage or teen usage or whatever. And I think it would be a great addition to the town for usage as the after-school program, because it's not all just going to be gym equipment, it's going to be, athletic space, there's still will be free space open like it is now. I think it would be more of an addition to the after-school program versus just. So,
Isn't there some restrictions on the Armory use based on what we,
Recreation.
recreation, but can it be used for, a for-profit retail business? I mean, that's something that would have to be looked at, right?
Well, there's also the logistics too, because the way that building is kind of set up, there's really only a couple ways to get, up and down from the basement to the third floor, or second floor, however you want to look at it. And then, obviously the use of the gym, so I don't know, again, given, when we talked on the phone, I thought we were going to try to have you just take a look at the space and kind of see, even if there is any logical way of, arranging what you have there outside of what you're asking, Tom, which that definitely needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, when I called Matt before, Matt, you said we could do that, right? With restrictions and stuff, yeah. But Ian, one thing was brought up, how,
It's not black and white, right?
all your members have keys, right? Or
Correct.
able to get in?
Correct.
How would you do
They're
that?
not going to do that.
So I don't know, I'm assuming the door's locked all the time.
Yeah, so I mean, you couldn't have people just come and.
Correct, so
You did.
what I do is I issue, so if you were to come sign up, you would call me, we would meet at the building, I would let you in, you would sign up and I would issue you an electronic key fob, which you would scan, I have all the hardware for that, you would scan and allow you access to the building. So no outside person.
That was my biggest concern.
Yeah, no outside person
Yeah.
would be able to get
Because
in.
anybody can go in there at any time,
Yeah.
with a.
Right, and I have cameras I can set up for everything that, how I've run before, but nobody that's not a member wouldn't have access.
For a community building, that kind of poses some problems, I think, just to be able to have a commercial entity operating out of it, and then have it for the seniors, for the youth, for the meal site, other types of not-for-profit organizations, so.
There are some hurdles we have to overcome and some research we have to do, so it's going to take a little bit of time to give you a definitive answer, but
Okay.
I think it's a stretch.
Nothing would be bolted down, I already asked you before.
Correct, yeah, everything would be on mat that's,
I just want to make sure.
yeah, the structure entirely would be completed. There wouldn't even be screw holes and anything.
Right.
How big a space do you need?
Oh,
What's the square footage you're looking at?
Probably at least 2,500 square feet, fairly substantial amount, preferably more. I mean, I've looked at buildings in town that were 12,000 square feet that I could utilize all of, so I have the equipment to do that, I just don't have a building for that right now.
Have you looked at any other places?
I've looked at every single other open space from West Warwick to Bolton Landing, every single one. They either don't want to sublet, it's way too big, or another problem is, it's just a man door, and I can't fit half my equipment through there, so.
So, sorry, but you said it was 2,500 up to
12,000.
12,000, okay.
How many square feet is the armory, like roughly, as a whole?
The whole building?
Yeah, just so I can.
Big.
Well, the top floor.
It's a lot.
It's big, because it's 3 floors.
I haven't been in the basement or the
There's
upstairs.
a huge space in the basement.
Yeah.
I'm
Is
surprised.
there?
I'd say 2,000 upstairs.
Really?
It's 80 by 80. What do you say?
The upstairs?
I mean, it's close.
1,600.
How many rooms and basketball clubs?
Yeah, we'll have to take a look at it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of my last option for having the gym in town, so.
Gosh, it seems like
you would
there's so
think-
many vacant buildings.
You would think
Yes,
one of
you
them would be, yeah,
Yes.
but this is kind of the last straw here,
Yeah.
so. All right, well, certainly appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
Have you contacted the owners of the Cobbler's Bench?
I have, they're looking to develop the space, and it would only be available for storage, sort of short term, so.
No.
Okay.
Okay, quick question here. I'm hearing that they're talking about putting water and sewer on Outlet Drive or whatever. And there's a bunch of people here, we're concerned about the cost, and quite frankly, we're not up for it. Especially I have sewer water on it. But is there anything going on?
So this is not being directed from the town at all, so there's no, the town is in discussions with the LGA. The LGA is the one who's kind of helping that process move along, so the conversation is probably better directed to them in that regard, rather than the town.
One of the questions I have, and
It's not really- Yeah,
we don't even know about it, like a meeting, like the next thing I know was something on the internet. Last minute I know about it. I think most of these people didn't know.
that's something that they're looking at, and it was done a while back too, and so they.
Yeah, it was, and then somebody was saying it was gonna be done like 2021, I'm like, whoa.
Well, yeah, that could be, the people in the area talking about it.
Good, you guys.
If the Lake George Association is the one that's getting the ball rolling on this, who's inevitably gonna pay for town of Tycon Road, correct?
Well, no, actually, the users would be the ones.
Well,
with the
town of
assistance.
Tycon Road is gonna engage with the contractor in order to get it done.
Well, but there's 2 ways in which this happens. Either the town takes the ownership to create the district, or the door is petitioned by the property owners. We've had long discussions about this, especially as we talk about at Eagle Lake and Chilson in the same kind of regard. So
So,
really, this is not initiating from it's not starting
I
at all.
understand that.
Okay, so I mean, really, it's really amongst the property owners, now that you know that it's out there, to have dialogue, and especially with those, the LGA who's helping to do some of the engineering work to kind of evaluate those costs, evaluate the logistics, evaluate all the aspects of it, but then, come back and decide whether you guys want to, whether the property owners.
Would
want
they
to-
vote on it though?
What's that?
Would it be a vote, or is it just somebody? No.
No, it's,
No, it's driven, it's a petition, so that you have a group of property owners that live in your neighborhood, the area there, that are working with the LGA on it. So it's not the town, they have an engineer,
So,
there's a map plan report, there's a large group of property owners on the streets there.
there's only one on our, on Outlet.
Yeah, I don't know where they live, I just,
So, and one on Sagamore Road.
yeah.
So,
No,
60 people or 2 people.
A petition has to be signed and presented to the town for the town to do anything. So that has not happened.
okay,
Well, I know that originally, years ago, they talked about the federal government was gonna
Yeah.
pick up the tab, right? I have sewer and water there.
We
I
all
don't
do.
wanna, I don't wanna pay for it, you know, so.
don't need it either, I
bring the septic system in.
But the town is not initiating this. This is something that, so it's, I mean, we can listen, but there's not really much we're doing.
Yeah, but it
So,
goes in front of the board to get approved, and we
Well,
don't
not-
tell them.
not for a while.
We don't want it.
It's really, this is really in your hands as property owners that are, looking to see about doing a water.
Because
sewer.
Walt Wonder won't get back to any of us. We all called, and he's the head of that. And Matt was at the meeting, the lawyer here,
Yeah.
he was at the meeting. It was a sneaky meeting.
Oh, no, no.
It wasn't.
Hold on. I
No,
was
it was
invited to a
about
meeting.
that.
I didn't host any meeting. I
Yeah,
was
you
asked to go to
were
a
at
meeting. I was asked to go, correct. You were there,
Yeah, we
right?
were at it.
She was.
Yeah. Again, there's a group of property owners that have worked with the LGA to get an engineer to develop the plans. Nothing.
But who's
What's
paying
your
for that?
determination of
The
approval?
LGA, not the
No
town.
grant.
So, but I
Nobody wants
mean,
that.
group of people, somebody's paying for it.
Yeah, not the town. The town's not paying for it.
Well, I mean, am I eventually gonna get assessed for that?
No, the town is not paying for it.
I understand that.
So the town has nothing to do with it. Until the property owners, enough property owners have to get together to sign a petition to form a district like that. That has not even been,
But if there's an engineer, he's not working for something, I understand the town's not, but who's paying for it?
I think it's the LGA. Yeah,
Anything positive, what's the thinking?
I'm sorry?
Is there a positive answer? You say you're thinking, with no positive
Yeah,
answer.
no, I believe the LGA is paying for it. I don't know if they've got grant funds to do it, they have grants that they administer to.
They're just doing a preliminary study, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's where this all comes from.
yeah. Eventually, a petition has to be circulated by the
Word
neighbors
gets out and they're
to do it.
with nothing,
Yeah.
yeah.
50% of the assessed value of the resident property owners and 50% of the assessed value of all of the property owners have to sign the petition. So that's how a petition gets sent to
So
the town board.
50%.
Yeah,
So now,
not 50% of the people, 50% of the assessed value of the resident owners.
okay.
It's a math equation.
So, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
But
the
again,
process,
if what you're telling me, though, there's an engineer, and I went through the LGA, and I understand it's not the town, but in fact, did they get 50% to get to that?
no, they don't have to have 50%.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and anybody can pay an engineer to do a map plan report. You could.
No, I understand that, it's just like I said, we get taxed to the hilt here, and, another assessment, which would, not from you, but to pay for the sewer, it's a lot of money, they're saying figures of 3,000. We all know that when they project 3,000, by the time it comes out, it's 5,000 or 6,000.
Well, if you get, I think the LGA may have had it on their website, I don't know where it is, but they.
Somebody gave it to me, that's how.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Those costs that they projected are like 5 years out, so they're inflated already. You don't do a map plan report based on current.
But I'm retired, my salary ain't going
No,
up.
no,
So, I understand that.
So the bottom line is that the town is not initiating this. You need to go, you need to talk to the LGA. The LGA is the one spearheading this. Why are they spearheading? Because they're trying to,
A group of property owners approach them.
What do you
Well, that-
consider,
Accommodate
what do you
rich
consider a group?
people. That's what they're doing.
what's that?
What do you consider, what does he consider a group?
Sounds.
Well, somebody from the Lake George Association, which you are a lawyer for,
Right, you're the lawyer for it, so tell us.
Okay, so what you need to do is you just need to reach out to the LGA and have a conversation with them.
we
If
would,
they don't answer us,
Track the map plan report. and
Contact
say,
them, yeah. Okay. Any other public comment?
Is this water and sewers?
I believe they're looking at both water and sewer.
grinder pumps that'll cost you each property owner $10,000.
Okay.
But he never got back.
Is there any way to be notified on your phone, like, if we get notifications about the water boiling and all this, when there's gonna be a meeting?
But that, you have to talk to the LGA, they're the ones who are publicizing that work that they're doing.
They're basically saying, it has nothing to do with the town at this point.
Right, it's like Georgia.
Yeah, the only petition
Yeah.
is presented, it doesn't even come.
I understand, but you also know, you've been in government, next thing you know, they sneak these things in the middle of the night,
That's what I
and
told.
that's what, well, I guess everybody's concern is. And my concern is, I have sewer and water, why would I have to pay again?
Yes, you would, you're responsible for a 30-year loan. That's what was on that meeting.
I don't mean
You're
just
talking
for this, I
$450
mean,
a quarter per house.
Low.
Joe, this lady's turn.
Yeah, well, I can't see her.
She's,
No, if
Can
there's
you-
gonna be
can you
a
stand
meeting,
up
it
and put
doesn't
it
have to
in
be for the sewer and that, but when the town is gonna have a meeting, can we be notified?
Right, that's what we want to know.
Because like I said, they get notifications on the road is gonna be closed, there's ice on something in there, but they don't say anything about, well, there's gonna be a town meeting.
they're on the website.
It's on the website.
A lot of us don't have Wi-Fi or computers, a lot of us older people.
Yeah, like me.
We need to be notified by
Wait, wait.
mail.
No,
Yeah.
on a phone, I can do my phone, but I don't do computers.
We have the third Thursday of every month at 6 o'clock. You can mark it on your calendar.
The 13th, what's that date?
Who you talking about?
So, the town meeting.
Tell me.
Second.
That's what you're talking about, right?
Second.
Yeah, because we're only up here like during the summer and that.
Yeah.
So we're really gonna get zonked if they put this water through, because we just put a new septic system in,
Right.
right?
I think that's everybody's kind of concerned, too.
Yeah, but I think,
Well, I have to go and pay.
but again, the town is not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah.
Ron, can you, just share that?
Yeah,
Do
I
the same thing,
understand.
just let, just,
But understand too, everybody's concerned.
oh, I,
You know, it's like, you're the president, this is the place. So, that's it.
You've been called that before.
thank you for that. Thank
That's
you.
one of the good things.
I don't know if that's a compliment.
Time to go make the jump.
Yeah, I am.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hey,
I thought the project was just saying.
Oh, they've got people on Sagamore and outside
hang out, let it go right straight across.
of approaching. You know,
If they do one, they'll do both. Second,
I don't know, yeah.
because it connects.
Well,
Just my guess anyway.
it's a whole sidebar, but I was meeting last week with Jocelyn and Laura came down to my office on the district consolidation stuff. And there are some properties over there on Snap and Turtle Way that are already in a district. So that the map that are put together is wrong.
I know.
Yeah, on Snap and Turtle, is that out letter Sagamore?
It's off Sagamore.
Sagamore.
Yeah.
But there's a couple properties down there that are already in the district, that are in the map that are important.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know.
But
So now they gotta go back and re-engineer that.
there's 2 or 3 houses coming down all that around the town hall.
Yeah. But there are, yeah, there are some, yeah.
Already, I mean,
It's because it was the legal Wild West over on that side when everything was cut off. That's why it's all messed
Oh
up.
my goodness. Let's not even keep going.
Okay.
Wow.
All right, next on the agenda is the public hearing. This public hearing is being held with regard to renewing the Charter Spectrum franchise agreement. This one is being carried over from August, and I plan to leave it open for at least another month. And the town is looking to renew its agreement with Charter Spectrum for cable and broadband communications. We all know how important those are to our region, especially the rural Adirondacks. But one of the areas of concern and question that came up, actually have been coming up quite a bit, has to do with just the build-out of many of these services, especially following the settlement agreement with Charter and Communications merger. They were to build out 145,000 new service connections. And so some work is being done at that, actually quite a bit of work is being done at that, not only in Essex County, but in other counties to try to understand how successful those are being. Because I know there's plenty in our community that don't have access to broadband, especially in today's day and age with COVID and children having to work from home and not work from home, but do their homework from home and have access to broadband. So anyway, we'll open it up to public comment. I have a link on the website to the go-to meeting. So far, there's no one on there. But I don't know if anyone has any comments regarding the renewal of the franchise agreement.
Did Matt tell you about this being, needing to be in the agreement?
No, we haven't
Oh, okay.
gotten that far yet.
I'm just surprised
I thought
to
he was
hear.
actually, I thought he was coming. I thought we talked about that last time.
I did too.
You
Oh.
have to ask them to come here.
Yeah. The public access thing has to be included in the agreement. He was gonna send me some information on it.
Oh, okay.
I've negotiated these for 15, 20 years and have not seen the public access thing. I think what it is my suspicion is, the cap on the fee is 5%, right? That can be charged back to the municipality. They get credit for the value of that in that 5%. So I think that's what they're aiming towards. I don't know how much it is, but the value of the service they provide is included in that 5%, because they don't charge for it. It's public access, so I suspect it's some amount of money that they're gonna want credit for.
Joe, I have a concern about spotty service even in more of the Hamlet area around the school.
Yeah.
And my daughter was on Delaware Drive, the phone comes on, it goes off, her TV comes on, it goes off. And my niece was saying at school that they have problems with their internet service up there, and I think they've gone all their services with Spectrum now.
I think they switched it, yeah. That was last year or this year?
This year.
This year?
Yeah, because she was, talking about when we were trying to set up for virtual learning.
All right, well, we'll leave this public hearing open. Next one. Next up is airport. Let's grab some. So airport committee met yesterday, September 9th. Our fuel sales were up $13.54 for the last month. As you know, we have upgraded our QT Pod payment system. It's now a cellular service where it was before a modem connection. They're phasing the modem connections out. So far so good. We talked about a couple items that are still outstanding. One is the some upgrades to the payment box. We had some discussion about security at the airport as well, not only with our gates, but also some evening activities. So we're looking to improve our security system and equipment. And there's also been some more discussion about providing additional access to the airport for fill. As you know, over the last several years, with some of the major capital projects we've had, we've taken quite a bit of fill at the airport. We had to go through the APA to get a jurisdictional form justification to be able to dump there. So we kind of hit a good part of that, but we're looking to see if we can expand some more since there's still more projects, especially the Portage project just underway, moving on to next year. So those are some of the highlighted items we discussed. I've got a couple resolutions. I know I brought a few before this board recently. I'm not sure how many more are to come with regards to two of the projects that we have currently slated. One is a pavement management program project, and another one is a apron reconstruction and taxiway rehabilitation project. And so I'd just like to just do kind of a universal resolution for the authorization to be able to keep those moving forward. As you may know, I mentioned it before, with the CARES Act, there was money given through the FAA to provide resources to airports, especially, or not just especially, but even small general municipal airports like ours. So both of these projects typically are covered, 90% of it's covered from the federal government, another 5, depending on the type of project, from the state.
Yeah, it's obviously a huge advantage.
And an additional 5 from the local government. But that local government component's being waived, being covered fully by the federal government through the CARES Act. So some of these other resolutions pertain to that. And so anyway, first resolution is to authorize the town supervisor to execute the federal grant agreement and related documents for the pavement management program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And a resolution to authorize the town supervisor to execute a federal grant agreement and related documents for the apron reconstruction and taxiway rehabilitation design project.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And then I have another one, just to, a resolution to approve the purchase of professional services and equipment from Foresight Electronic Monitoring Systems in the amount of $1,857.45.
I'll move it.
What is that for?
This is for security equipment.
Did you get this, Tom?
This is,
I saw that.
they've provided other security equipment, for cameras.
They do all the town. They do all the towns.
Yeah, right. So in order to stay consistent with their offerings. So all in favor? Did you second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Next meeting, it should be on October 6th, although that might change just depending on a few other things, but that's all I have for airport. So public safety?
Okay, we met on August 25th. Excuse me, the following members. Myself, Adam Albert, Bill Ball, and Rhiannon Peters. Guests were Mark Wright, Matt Fuller, Joyce Cooper, and Richard Netto, and clerk Jennifer Buchanan. We called the meeting to order at 8 o'clock. Richard Netto voiced his concerns at the Monument Traffic Circle. Mr. Netto's concern with the yield sign coming from Hague. Mr. Netto states that there has been many near-miss accidents. Mr. Netto suggests that the signs be bigger or flashing to make more people more aware of the circle. Councilman Woods will bring Mr. Netto's concerns to the highway meeting. Bill Ball states that they are working on remedying the 3 burnt structures that are located on the Portage, John Street, and Cossie Street. Bill addressed COVID enforcement as to how he can enforce it better in the stores. Bill also states that there's an ongoing water leak on Racetrack Road. Owners attempted to fix it numerous times, and it never lasts. Bill went to water and sewer meeting, and they will give owner 2 weeks to fix it permanently. Bill's had 7 building permits issued, 1 fire safety inspection, and the police had 539 calls, 32 incident reports, 21 arrests, 60 uniform traffic tickets, no DWIs, and accidents investigated 12. And Patrolman Dennis Town received the Department's Life-Saving Award for his efforts during the incident that occurred August 11th, 2020 on Timber Street in Ticonderoga. Patrolman Town responded to the location for a report of a male subject who had overdosed. Patrolman Town administered Narcan and the male subject to the male subject and was able to reverse the effects of the narcotic. The male subject was transported by Thai EMS to Moses Wellington Hospital, where he voluntarily signed himself out.
We just have one acknowledgement. As you many know, the New York State governor has issued an executive order requiring each local government in the state to adopt a policing reform plan by next April. So we have received that, and we'll be setting up a plan of moving forward to comply with this executive order. So we just add in here, I don't know if we need to do a resolution, but just making you aware. Mark had brought this up, just acknowledgement of the receipt of this book. You guys have all seen this. We talked about this last month. For the governor's order for police reform and reinvention collaboration. So put that up there. Okay. Highway and transfer station.
Highway and Transportation Committee met on August 25th. Present was myself, Tom Cunningham, Dave Woods, Sal Bernal, Mitch Cole, and John Deming as part of the committee. Others in the public was Joe Giordano, Joyce Cooper, Matt Fuller, Greg Swart, and Jocelyn Raffet. There was no public discussion at this particular meeting. We did get a report from the highway superintendent that the town had its full complement of winter sand and salt. So they're set with that. Joe was supposed to get with Mark Bonfrey to talk about the brine, sharing the brine program.
Okay.
He's supposed to get in touch with him at some point in time, right? The joint funding of a brine making unit. And for the next upcoming meeting, Sal, the highway superintendent, is supposed to get some written quotes for a new street sweeper so that we can evaluate those and discuss whether or not that's something we are going to purchase this year or next year. The timing of the purchase, we'll bring that up at the next meeting. It was noted that the armory and transfer station paving projects were completed by the town crew using a rented paver, so those projects are complete. Burgoyne Road was being paved at the time, which is now complete, but it was being paved at the time of the last meeting. The highway department is supposed to determine the length of sidewalks that need to be paved and go out for quotes on those so that we can get some quotes to see about getting some of the sidewalks paved in town. Still on the agenda is the hospital has asked the town to consider taking over the new road. Recently put in at intersection Wicker Street. We're still trying to schedule a meeting with the hospital executives to discuss the pros and cons of taking this responsibility. We're still waiting to get that meeting set up. We have not heard from them when they want to set that meeting up. Unless, Joe, you've heard something?
No, we had a meeting over the summer, but they're waiting to finish, they're waiting to finish the transactions on their plate before they knock those,
Right. The new transfer station building was under construction. It should be completed by now, and it will be transported to the transfer station when it's completed. And I think it's been done at this point, or should be close to being done. Yeah,
It's, the electric and stuff has to be done.
right. There's been work that's been completed on the highway building on Racetrack Road by the highway department. And we should be getting a report on this next upcoming meeting, highway meeting, about what's been completed since January and the costs incurred. And then we'll use that to further evaluate what we're going to do with that building going forward after we've kind of seen the cost that's been incurred to date and get an estimate of what it's going to take to complete repairs on that building or the best way forward. It was agreed that a couple of additional crosswalks need to be painted on the pedestrian crossings, mostly up towards the between the library and the Lake George Avenue intersection. We're still waiting on a report to get a number of damaged culverts that's going on, although those repairs have taken place on an as-needed basis. And there was a question about review of some state laws and how that you can require utility companies to bury their lines on new projects. And I think it was determined that that had to be done through the developer. If they're developing a new subdivision or something in town, that would have something they would have to do. So, and we still need to look at the planned maintenance system for all the town equipment. And that's about it for that meeting. There were no resolutions, and the meeting was adjourned at 9:45.
I'm going to hold off on public works. Greg will be joining us after he finishes his session at Crown Point, so just fill in then when he gets in. So we'll go to buildings and grounds, Parks and Rec.
I don't have any buildings for the public. We're doing all the shields for the library and for the separations between the computers, plastic things, and then the keys are fixed upstairs.
Oh.
I had to take the outlet, the lights down and spray foam it on the walls.
Is that where they were coming in? Do we know where they're coming in from the outside then?
No.
Oh, okay.
Two of them.
That was like the library?
No, upstairs at Bill Ball's.
Oh.
I went up yesterday after Joe told me the harness were just, they were all over the place.
Every year.
Yeah, last time here.
They're coming from the light between the floors. They'll probably eat the top of the building off, but as long as the Bill Ball's protected, that's all.
to Parks and Rec. I won't go over all the members who were in attendance, except to say we had a couple visitors. Mark Wright was one of them, and Kelly Carey from the chamber was another. Kelly came to the meeting because she was presenting us with a display case, which I think is behind Tanya. And the chamber received it. It's a locking message board, or message case, whatever you want to call it. And their thought was that it could be placed on the green board, which is next to the town clock, if you know what I'm talking about. There's a green board next to the clock. It houses the electrical equipment, or the meters, or whatever is on the back side. And right now, it's got a flag on it. Before that, it was just blank. They had some thoughts about what could be in it, but I would like the Parks and Rec Committee to talk about it a little more. I almost think it'd be a great place to put a map, which is my next hopeful project to get done, to have a map of key things for our visitors placed in 3 locations in town. Roberta Whiteley we're getting closer to getting the statue in the ground right over here next to the daylight stream. Somebody has volunteered to build structures, not just this one, but if more statues are built, he's willing to work on those too. And I'm hoping that the first structure will be built sometime this fall, because the statue currently is in the library, is in the art gallery, and it needs to get out of there. And if that happens, I'm going to also have a sign kiosk, excuse me, put next to it to explain the history of that statue. There's a lot of things that are going on in our cemeteries, especially Mount Hope. Mount Hope has a lot of problems going on right now, especially the building needs some work, and a lot of the stones have fallen over, and it's a very historic cemetery that a lot of our town's history is sitting up there on the hill. And Bill Dahlbeck hopes that he has received grant money in the past. It's not clear to me what the grant was for, but there's about $34,000 sitting in a fund, but we're not sure how much of that money can be spent. There is some thought that we can only spend an interest on that account, which is not much. But if there's a significant amount of money, or maybe at least $10,000, Bill would like to have the roads worked on up there in Blacktop. And the highway superintendent has agreed to do the paving once he knows how much money is available. Somebody raised the question about the Lord Howe Monument. If you know what I'm talking about, is when you come in from 9N, there was a little monument there, and it had a crack in it. It fell down once and it fell down again. Apparently somebody likes to knock it over. So Bill Dahlbeck removed it, and he's, one of the monument companies is going to make a new one, and we'll have it put back in that place. And right now the property where it was, if you know what I mean, is where the blue sign as you come in on Route 9, that property currently belongs to the hospital. And the Historical Society is hoping that they can take ownership of that property in the future and maybe make it a more significant spot than it is right now. Bill Dahlbeck also spoke about the Legacy Park. He's put a lot of work into that, as you know, and it really looks good now thanks to our groundskeeping crew. He thinks there needs to be better lighting around the monument itself, and he asked the committee permission to sell memorial pavers to purchase 2 new light posts, and the committee had no problem with that request. There's been a little bit of vandalism on Wilshire Trail, and I think, Mark, you're the one who made the report, that several of the kiosk signs, which are the ones that are on the post in the ground with a picture, have been vandalized by being cut by some kind of sharp object. And Grand Head will be asked to note the damage and recommend a solution or a repair. Those kiosks were put in by Pride, the town where I put them in originally, and I have no idea what something like that costs. So it's in the talk stage right now. It was also noted at that time that the plaques on the entrance pillars to town on all of the entrances need cleaning, and this has to be researched too, because as we know from the monument, up at the Moses Circle, you have to use the right projects to get the right results. We have an EV station down in the Elks parking lot. Maybe you've noticed it. We have two stations there. That was through a grant. And I'm happy to say I've seen people there charging their vehicles. So it's not just the same person all the time. So people are finding them. I noticed when I Googled it, I was looking up proper signage for it. I noticed it immediately popped up a couple of stations that are right around here for EV charging. And I have gone online and discovered what color those signs should be and about what size they are. So I'm going to order that with Parks and Rec funds. So it'll be properly noted over down here so that people can turn down their car and charging station. This is a long section here that I put in here, but you know, there's a lot of lake organizations for Lake George. Well, one of them is the Lake George Land Conservancy, and they currently have around the lake, and they call it the RTL Challenge. And this is a challenge which is sort of similar to the APA's 46er Challenge, which offers the opportunity for individuals to complete some certain tasks. And in this case, it's 20 missions, as they're calling them, to become an official round-the-laker. And the participants who do that will receive a certificate of completion in the patch. And the goal of the organization is to raise awareness of the natural, historical, and cultural resources in the Lake George Basin. And I'm happy to say that the LGLC recognizes our beautiful Lachute Trail River Walk and has listed it as one of its 3 missions that can be completed in Ticonderoga. They also list a visit to the Heritage and Hancock Museums, Bicentennial Park, and Black Point Beach, that's a second one. And they also, Mount Defiance is the 3rd. And I think this is a great thing that they're doing, especially because it gives us opportunity to have some new visitors to our town. Grant Spalding reported he was president of the meeting, and he has been working on the erosion damage at the 3rd field, which is up over the hill. So if you walk the trail, you know what I'm talking about. And he requested by topsoil and rolls of the grass bats, I guess he called them, to get the work completed, and that was approved. And he also noted that he has been depositing chippings and trimmings up near his station, so to speak, near the police department, and it's almost at capacity. And he says a new deposit area will soon be needed. And he suggested the airport as a possible new location pending approval, which means it would be filled in, I don't know. Is there room? Okay. Well, we'll have to talk about that in the next meeting, I guess. And he also repeated his request that a new or used chipper be purchased. Okay, signage, I've been working on that quite a bit. And along with some new signage for parking in the Upper Lachute Trail, which have already been purchased. And we need some new directional signage for downtown because it has been requested by TMSP and some of our local citizens. This signage includes directions to Mount Defiance. I have to say Bob Dietrich has been very emphatic that MapQuest is sending our visitors down a little piece of Macomb Street and has them turn onto Cossey Street. So it's taking all the potential visitors to our downtown away from it and sending them up Cossey Street. So they go up Cossey Street, go to Mount Defiance, come back and leave town, and never see our downtown. So we will have a couple of signs here. They give the straight through sign for Mount Defiance so that they go, and then they can turn at Champlain Avenue to head up to Mount Defiance. We also need one for Recreational Park because we have a lot of people coming in now for disc golf, as well as when Little League is in session. We have a lot of outside players coming in. And we also need a sign downtown for our beach because there's none down. And Renee Fleming reported for Pride that they're working on to replace 4 mobile homes in town. But unfortunately, it's been progressing very slowly due to the discovery of asbestos and slow reimbursement. And there will be 4 done in this town, and that's it. And our next meeting is on the 3rd Tuesday, which is when I'm calendar here.
You want to go to?
Oh, yes, I do. I have something I want to discuss because this falls under Parks and Rec. too. We have some problems with the existing parking that we already have. One of the lots that's really heavily used, which is, I think you all know where, I hope we all know where the Pocket Park is. And the Pocket Park is not only has a visitor's kiosk there, but it also is the main entrance to the Lower Lachute Trail. And it's been very well landscaped. Grant monies was used to bring it up to what it looks like now, because when I came to town, it was not a very pretty spot. But the parking behind it has become an issue. And sort of, if one of you wants to grab this, you can see what I'm talking about. I need to keep one for myself, if you want to take a look at it. There's one.
We're fine.
Okay. So if you look on this, you see a red circle thanks to Joe. And what I'm asking for is consideration of putting a sign up that says no parking here to the corner. Because what's happening here, and I don't know if you can tell, people enter here from Con Street, and this is the Pocket Park right here. And then you come up here, and you can see where there's a row of stones and green grass, and that's the parking area. But if you look down here, near the edge of the circle, right here, it looks like a little white dot, you'll see that there's a car parked there. And there's at least one parked there all the time. And what it's doing is not only is it ruining the landscape, and it's also making a problem with Grant doing his mowing and whatever else he needs to do there. But in the wintertime, it creates a real problem, because if there's a car there, Grant does the plowing of our parking lots, and he's having trouble getting through there. And he's having trouble knowing what to do with the snow once it gets there. So I'm asking that we put up a sign that says no parking here to the corner. And I looked at it today, and believe it or not, you can see this black stick pointing up. That's the power pole. And then if you look right near it, you're going to see a blob that's sort of red. That's the car. From that pole up to here, I'm not doing a very good job of explaining it, 30 feet. So the sign would need to be 30 feet from that pole, pointing down towards Montcalm Street. That's an interesting spot anyways. I was telling Joe earlier today that this whole area here is just loaded with easements. And who knows what else is underground. But, and it's all, there's some real maintenance problems here beside that, but I would really like to see our trail.
Are those the same cars from the rental properties? I mean, there's just.
Yeah, they're
there's
tenants.
rental properties here.
They're tenants, but they don't have any parking.
Yeah, so it's from the rental, yeah.
Mostly. And then our visitors come in and they don't know what to do. And I have to tell you, there were days this summer that all of the parking there was full. And I think we actually might want to expand it eventually more to the east, but they don't need to be parking there because it's a very narrow thing. I don't think we own the property here. So that's my request. I have to tell you, I'm very passionate about that area because I think it's very special.
So the question you're asking was, how do we implement the no parking sign?
Yes. The interesting thing is, Matt, this sort of involves you. It's not a street. It's not a named street. It says Adirondack Park on here, but that's not what it is. It has no name. It doesn't come out a street until you get down behind the bank. I don't know how far McCormick Street goes. Do you know, Tommy?
So then who owns it?
Who owns it? We do.
You sure?
Well, except for there's a couple easements going through it.
No.
There's a couple easements going through
We
it.
had an issue down there when they did this park.
But there's an easement running through there. I actually have the survey. I'll have to share it with you.
Yeah, I think I might have something then too. I can get to my server and I'll go.
I have the most recent survey because I'm the one with the hotel.
If it's not a street, then it's actually fairly easy. It's just a resolution. Be no different than your beach property or anything like that. You know, there's no, not local law.
But if that property isn't all ours, can we put a no parking
You
sign?
cannot.
That's what I
You
mean.
couldn't enforce it on private property.
And she said some of it has easements, right?
Well, there's.
Well, the easements wouldn't be a big deal.
If somebody was parking on that easement,
Nobody does.
If we own the property, it's subject to an easement, but we still own the fee.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
We pay.
Because they're the, what do they call it? stuff you really
It's
shoot.
still, even though it's legal, it's still ours.
Carl's Bend stuff?
Yeah.
No.
I think that's what I noticed there's a permanent easement for IP companies, Wilson and the buildings, Telstra.
Yeah. So they were, an easement is just a generally a right of usage, so we would still have a right of ownership.
And I know there's been discussion before about naming the street or deciding whether it should be one way or whatever. And right now it's every man for himself, but getting in and out of there. But in the meantime, I would like to encourage the residents to park where they should, so we can keep that area looking its best.
So the action for us would be to figure out what we own. And then would we include something like this in our order restricting parking, perhaps? No? Because we have one that goes on Montcalm from Tower Ave to...
Yeah, but that's not the street. And that was, you're talking about the 2-hour parking? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, we have just that ordinance restricting parking area. I don't know if this would be something that would fall in it, because you're going to have no parking anytime. But I guess the first thing is to figure out exactly what we own.
Bill had mentioned something else too, that it's, what do you call it, when fire zone. There should be parking there anyways.
Fire lane.
What was the term for that time? Fire
lane.
Fire lane, thank you. He mentioned that because it's so close to the apartment building. So there's a lot of reasons why people shouldn't be parking there.
Okay.
Otherwise, we have other considerations, I'm going to put a bicycle right there.
Like Matt said, it's not a road that you can do just a resolution. If it is one, then figure out who owns it.
There was some issue on when the private park went in, and that was, yeah, you were on board with that too, weren't you?
Sorry?
When the private park went in, I think Bill was.
Oh, yeah, we worked on it, yeah, there's a lot of work. Yeah, we had to figure out a lot of the title stuff.
You have to research that, or can we make a resolution tonight?
I think you need to look to see who owns the property.
Yeah, I don't know that I've got the current.
You need to.
You're presenting that, how we're gonna do
We
it.
need to.
You
I'll
could put it in
go
your
check,
ordinance.
but I do have a survey.
You could,
In an order restricting, yeah.
you could put it in ordinance. About being private property, it's not a street.
Okay.
So that doesn't have to be limited like that, it's no different than this parking lot. Right, if you declare that no parking for whatever reason, it's not
If it's not
a
a
parking issue.
Okay.
It's not a VTL violation. So your ticketing for no parking is more difficult with something like that, because it's not a VTL issue.
So where are we?
Well, I guess you just have to figure out what we own.
Okay.
Start there.
Yeah.
Go up and check with Daddy?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, that survey, you have the survey, just shoot.
I
shoot
do
it
have a
to me.
survey. I
You have a
should
paper
brought
or
it
is
tonight,
that?
This?
Email?
This?
No, that's just a picture.
but- No, I have a survey.
Oh, you do have
Yeah.
a...
It's what Jim gave, it was
Yeah,
with
yeah.
your property there, I have the survey from that.
Yeah, I've got some old stuff too, again, if I can get to it, I
Yeah.
for some reason locked out my server right now. I don't know if I can have it.
I don't think,
Expect it.
I'll bring it into you and show you. How's that sound?
Yeah, I didn't even have the survey.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't bring
You
it
can't even take
tonight.
a picture, you shoot it.
Well, we can scan it and send it to them.
Yeah.
Or Patty probably can do it on...
Yeah, what's on my guidance, my guidebook table.
Shoot it, picture of it. Technology.
Okay, so we'll follow through on that, that would be a big improvement. I think if we want to encourage people not to park on the main street, we need to make it easier for them to do it, nicer. One more thing, it's very dangerous there at night. Last night, I was out after dark, and I just drove in that parking lot just to see, and when you come off Macomb Street and you get by Pocket Mart, you can't see anything. It's really, really dark. Several years ago, maybe 5 years ago, Chatty had a street light put in back there. Do you remember that time?
It wasn't her, but yes.
Yeah. Well, it was way over on the other side, and it doesn't do any good. I'd like to investigate maybe adding 2 lights to the light pole that's in front of the Pocket Park on Macomb Street. There's a street light in front. Maybe if we put an arm to the back, that would solve the problem. Because I'm telling you, no wonder the tenants don't want to park back.
There was already discussion about that with you could talk to Bill Ball about that. There was a lot of discussion about a light out behind that.
Okay. Does he feel there's a need for it?
Well, he thought that the landlord of that building should put one out there and attach it to the building.
there's
You talked to
to
Bill
something,
about that.
but I wouldn't, you know, as a woman, I would not want to be walking there after dark. To be continued.
Okay. I'm just gonna continue down, human services, youth, I know you guys had a meeting, but you didn't have a forum, is that correct? Nothing to share, probably. Human services seniors, Tom?
No, there's nothing to report, they haven't had any meetings until isolating.
I had a couple questions, Don.
They've been playing pickleball though, I'll tell you
Yeah.
that, that's good.
I had a couple of them ask me what's gonna happen with the snowflakes where they play pickleball.
Oh, you mean they're out here back inside? Okay, we'll have them just.
Cross the bridge.
Glad we didn't have a gym.
Don't rub it in.
I'm trying to help it.
I know, but it's not really helping right now.
Health insurance, waiting for the finalization of the next year's health insurance rates. Hopefully that'll be coming here next week, I'm told. So I'll probably have a committee meeting after that, just to bring it to the attention of the employees. There were no contract negotiations, and as for IT, cable TV, working with StoreTech to produce their consolidated list of emails and computers. Tom and I have had some conversation with regard to the upgrading of the systems as well as the servers that was just brought to our attention recently, and also a few other communication pieces under the Polycom here. We're looking to get that installed so we have better frequency of conversation. It's for the public about not being able to hear from the audio recordings. This doesn't necessarily tie into that, but at least it's something to have when we do have people that can't be physically here to chime in. So StoreTech has a solution for that. We're just looking to schedule a date for them to come out and get that up and running. So, other than that, I'm gonna just wait on Public Works until we'll just get to the regular resolutions. So, resolution to accept and correct the minutes of the regular town board meeting of August 13th, and the special town board meetings on August 19th, 2 on August 20th, and the 1 on September 3rd.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. A resolution to authorize the town supervisor to execute the amendment to the memorandum of agreement relating to Lake George watershed priority action plan implementation, Village of Lake George. This is an amendment to an agreement we already have in place. This is the watershed agreement that does protect the Lake George watershed. Some of the things we've talked about at the highway meeting with regard to the brining machine, the new brine maker, or the live edge plows that the town has received, our town has received, as well as other towns, as well as the salt monitoring systems that were installed in trucks back, I think, in 16, as well as maybe other equipment. They've come out of this joint agreement that has been put together. Actually, I was talking about earlier, he's actually helped to craft, either was the author of the original agreement and the current one, and this one. But basically what this is it leverages all the communities around the lake to receive grant funding, and then by receiving that grant funding, provide an equivalent match to be able to bring those materials, those pieces of equipment to the different municipalities to aid in things like, all towards protecting the watershed, but things like salt reduction. And I think the live edge plows have been able to do like the salt monitoring for those trucks that are distributing salt near the catch basin, as well as this new request for a brining machine to make brine for the different towns to use throughout the year. So anyway, so this is just an amendment to that agreement. I guess with some updated costs associated with some of the grant funds received and
In added members.
added members. Okay. Any questions? You probably can answer better than I can. I just,
I'll move it.
okay. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. The next one is a resolution authorizing payment from unemployment insurance payment reserve fund in accordance with section 6C of the general municipal law of the state of New York. So, last year. Huh? Did I not copy it? Did I not copy it?
Keep going.
I think I copied the other one, just the one for the sewer. Anyway, the town had a pretty substantial reserve last year. We had moved some of the fund balance, but there's still a significant money probably left. Yeah? 6M? Okay. No, okay. My apologies, that should be 6M, not 6C. So we've had an influx of unemployment, I think partly due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm just looking for authorization to be able to pull from the capital reserve as opposed to having to fund those unemployment payments through the general budget.
I'll move it.
Second.
Any questions? And I had Matt, I think this one didn't make it because he just produced it for me just before the meeting. But you'll see another one similar to, I'll get you a copy of this one. Yeah, it's just after the water sewer notes, just kind of, last year we went through the process, the beautiful process of trying to update those because these capital reserves were made in the past and we haven't been able to always find the documentation that goes along with them that kind of defines how they'll be used. And so we went through the painstaking process, Chatty and Frank did along with Matt to bring them up to date, and we passed them in the last year. So moving forward, we'll have a nice, nice resolution that kind of points to what we're doing, and we have a record. A record. So we're taking taxpayer monies, we're putting them into reserves. Those reserves are used for specific purposes, and then we're just pulling from them as we need it for those specific purposes. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What?
Just, we kept the unemployment. You got a first and second, didn't I?
You already did that, though.
No, I'm doing the one for unemployment insurance. 6M.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you already did that, anyway.
Did I do all in favor?
Yeah.
I thought I asked you guys. Oh,
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
I thought I asked if you had any questions, and then I continue to talk. Greg, you want to go now? We'll cut it the rest of it. Okay.
That's gonna make my minutes look terrible.
What's that?
It's gonna make my minutes look terrible.
All right, I'll start.
You can do those all.
No, that's fine.
But you don't,
What's it?
you can actually do these at once. You want,
Do a whole lot of
just whatever title it's, your budget.
No, Greg can go.
I can be a couple minutes.
We record.
Now, you only get 2 minutes.
All right. We'll just finish these then. Resolution to set the budget workshops. I think I was able to talk to most, Dave, I don't think I was able to grab you when we talked earlier, I forgot that again. I'm looking at September 18th. It's a Friday, I believe, for budget workshops in September.
I'm all right.
Do you have a schedule? Do you? Okay.
Is everybody else free?
Well, I think, Tom,
Can you talk to me?
I can be available. I mean, I'll make myself available.
one is the Friday the 18th of June.
Yeah, I'm good.
Another one is the 22nd, which is a Tuesday at 9 a.m.
Say that once more.
Tuesday, the 22nd
At 9 a.m.?
at 9 a.m.
And the other one is
With the 24th, which is a Thursday, also at 9 a.m.
What was the first one? You said
The first one's the 18th, Friday.
Noon
discussion on all the different budgets and the different
Just
anticipations.
wanted to know if I needed to bring lunch at 9 o'clock.
We can make some of them, bring them.
I want to bring dinner too.
What's that?
Okay, the 18th, 22nd, 24th.
Yeah, 18th, 12 o'clock, 22nd, and 24th at 9 a.m.
Just those three for now?
Just this week now, we'll probably end up scheduling one other one, but I just will wait to see how we make it.
Okay, I'll move it.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And then can I also add any other lawful business? I was gonna eliminate the finance meeting. That way we don't have to have a separate meeting that day.
Then you can deal with that one, bid opening we have.
Yeah, you probably have a, what do you have?
I think that opening's on the 24th, 21st, so you should be good.
Okay. And then the next resolution is to cancel the September finance meeting, which is on the 24th at 8:30. I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. All right, the next list, you can, unless anyone has any specific questions, most of these are just adjustments from one line item to another within a budget, just to do overages. The first group is general accounts. Second group is highway. Third group is sewer. And then the last one is actually sewer district 8. That's actually coming from fund balance. All the other ones are just transfers between one line item in that budget to another line item. Any questions with that?
I'll move it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And the next is resolution authorizing the following budget transfers. There's actually two other ones on here. One is for the unemployment capital reserve transfer that we just passed a resolution for. It's for $1,914.30. And that would just come from the reserve to the appropriate line item in the budget to expend. The other one is for sanitary equipment and infrastructure reserve. That's the resolution we haven't passed yet, and it's part of the ones in the public works discussion. And that one is the one we approved last board meeting, $62,000, $62,496 to be exact. Materials that we received for the aeration tanks upgrades that the water and sewer department employees are going to install. So we're going to take that money was not budgeted, we're going to take it from capital reserve, and it'll be expended through SSO 5 8120.220. So the first group is just general account transfers from contingency that you have on your paper, and then the next group is from sewer. Like I said, those other two are the capital reserve transfers from the respective capital reserve accounts, they're both 201 accounts, to the appropriate line item from which to expend those monies, unemployment and the aeration tax. Sorry, I didn't get this printed out beforehand, I just Frank and I finished just before the meeting. Tanya, I'll get you a printout of those account numbers. Do you guys have any questions about it? We haven't really used capital reserves that much, but obviously this is sort of the intent, to be able to have that money set aside and be able to use it specifically for these situations, especially like the sewer for the equipment and infrastructure. So I think, all in favor?
Aye.
No,
Oh, I,
first and
first and
second.
second, sorry. Someone first, thanks.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. The next one is a resolution authorizing the following interfund loans. So the first is for the drinking water project. Again, these are just, we haven't received the funding yet, they go through EFC. So we provide the money to make the payment, and then the money gets, we'll receive reimbursement basically from the state probably next week. And so that'll just go back into that, the parent fund for which some of these are being funded from. So the first one is Central Water. lending to the H36, which is the label is Chilson Reservoir. It's really our main drinking water project. The second one is for the clean water and sewer project. And the last one is for the Veterans Road Culvert New York project. That's the $3.1 million project we have. It's just started this year in terms of designing on the Veterans Road. Someone want to move that?
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And the last one is interfund transfer. And this is just money being transferred for the Chilson Eagle Lake water exploration. Again, this is funded through general, and upon the creation of a district, then that money would then get reimbursed back to general from that district creation. So, all for it, I'll move that one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to pay the abstract.
Move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And a resolution, so carried. And a resolution to accept the supervisor's report as submitted.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. You had roll call vote on those capital reserves. Do we need to do roll call vote for those?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Okay, well, why don't we just finish the rest of the resolution and then Craig can go ahead and give. Is that okay? Well, back to public works. Sorry, jump back in here, first page. What's that? Yeah, so the first one is the same as that unemployment. This one's specifically for the sewer equipment and infrastructure reserve to fund the aeration tank equipment. And that one is included in your packet, so you can see the language for that. So I'll move that one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And then the next one is just to approve a change order number 7 for Gross Electric for the costs associated with troubleshooting and repairing a GPI panel feeder, and that was in the amount of $5,500, $570.46. And just as a note, that was one of those ones that it was unclear as to how it got damaged, whether it was a natural freak of nature or an installation discrepancy. But in any case, Gross Electric actually gave us some credit from that bill. It was originally going to be like 8,000 something, so they kind of offered a little bit of ownership of that. So I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. And with that, I will pass it on to Greg.
I don't have too many things, so 2-3 minutes maybe. So the main one that, so on the water project, the main original project is basically complete. It is complete the repair of well 1, the drop pipe of well 1 is working and holding. I think we decided last committee meeting to move forward with repairs of the second well number 2, which should be happening, not happening right now, very shortly. And then the last, there's still a few chemical heat issues, skid issues we're still working out with the contractor, but to get those squared away, warranty items, the main water project is done. And we're moving towards closeout, which I'm sure will still take some time with paperwork and all that, but we're getting there.
Is your warranty still? I saw them doing.
The warranties, I think the warranties pretty much ended in June. Bellamy's was a little bit longer than that. It was while building, that was an basically extended defect issue. The water line, they've been really good to come back anyway, where they haven't come back on it. Probably, if there's been a couple of issues, would be considered late defects, so there's still some issues ability to go back anyway. But they've been good to come back and work on them. That one area where it's been leaking out.
I was surprised to see them back up there.
Yeah, we think we had a bad joint, and it's causing leaks. So they've been working on trying to get that fixed. But they've been pretty good about coming back on fixing things. So that's pretty good. The only thing that's really left to do is kind of part of that water project is the abandonment of the existing wells. We put together a little package and got requested quotes again from various contractors. It ended up coming in very expensive. It was like $45,000. So I'm going to suggest to work with Derek to probably do a lot of the work in-house. I mean, we can spend the $45,000 if you want, but it seems way over me. We've done it a lot cheaper in other areas. Part of the problem is having to throw in all the EFC requirements, all the other stuff to do as part of a bigger project. It just gets paperwork costs. So I think Derek could probably deal with most of it in-house, or get quotes from individual parts. So work with them to deal with that. That's just part of your water meter, your water supply permit, something that could check the box on, basically. So we'll deal with that. Working on the next phases of the water project being the water meters and such, so we done all that in the report last time. We're working on funding for water meters, water bypass line in the Defiance tank. We'll see where that goes. We're putting an application with RD. So hopefully I have that next month or so. We should see where we stand, at least to get it started. And that's just the first phase of funding. We'll be going after more. This year, obviously, things are derailed, so it'll be pushing to next year. But so we're working on that. And I met with Matt last week before, working on district consolidation, going through some of the various issues in the water districts, trying to clean those up. I think we're making some pretty good progress. So we'll have to report back at the committee meeting, and then the next couple of months we'll be working on cleaning that up, just to clean up the billing and all that stuff. So
I think we're gonna have a day where we're gonna have a few hours worth of work at some point, but we're narrowing it down from, 2 or 3 multiple hour days to hopefully just one. With a list of things we can just go through. We did make, I thought we made good progress last week, so.
we originally got through the map and kind of generated a list of questions. Matt was able to answer quite a few of them, kind of whittling it down to, just different issues.
A lot of policy stuff.
Yeah.
Who's in, who's out, how do you want to treat this? Discrepancies in maps. We've got lots that are in district that have no charge whatsoever. That's got to be fixed. Everybody pays something. So we'll go through all those.
Yeah, so one more thing to get cleaned up, and I think once we do it, it'll make projects in the future easier, billing in the future easier, all that sort of thing. So kind of critical to getting the water meter project going too.
Does that have to be for the meters? I mean, will the meters be a part of that?
Doesn't necessarily have to be, it just doesn't fall into place that way.
Yeah, it makes it easier because basically honestly making sure we have the list of people that was water service correct. So when we go after the meters, we have that all correct. We can do it without it, but it's clear. So, and I think that'll be good. Make a lot of projects in the future easier. And the other thing, I'm not sure if I got distributed to you or not, but I sent it down, is our proposal for working on the water meter project. Essentially, what is the design of the project? It's mostly data gathering. There's not really a lot to quote unquote design. So it's meant to be a first phase. It's kind of hard to put down in writing because it's not really a standard design project. We talked about the committee is basically we want to go out and gather information, at least locations on all the water shutoffs for all the properties, because that'll give a point of reference for the contractors, and then collect some general data. So we want to try to find out who has problems with their laterals, who runs their laterals in the winter, because there's funding to go after to fix some of that. So that way when people do get meters, they're not running water all winter and then being charged for it with the meters. And we can't fix every problem out there, but we want to try to identify as many as we can. So that's my proposal is generally to start doing that data gathering. Our goal is to work with Derek and his crew as much as we can to to minimize our time. But we wanted to at least get started because we do have a deadline that's 3 or 4 years from now, which will go very quickly if we don't get started. So if it didn't get to you today, we got it down for you guys to review. I thought it was take a chance to look at it, and then we can discuss it at the next meeting, and hopefully move forward with it. I would like to try to get started on some of that this winter, just to keep it moving. And the other component of it is to get you a GIS system set up and starting to run. Part of it is we were going to use that for the water meter system and all the tracking and everything, part of the project. And part of it is I've seen some of our committee meetings, a lot of questions and data tracking that are being asked of department heads that, one of the, I think last time was condition of culverts, things like that. All that can be tracked with a GIS system. For now, it's just more configuring it towards water sewer, but it can be used, used for other things. And even if it's just a baseline for now, it's something for the future. So that's in that proposal as well, because that's a good baseline for us to get started. So take a look at it and let me know next time we'll talk about it, and make sure it's what you guys want. And then I think the last thing on water is the lead service grant. Everything's all set up for us to get started. That'll probably be basically a winter design project for us, so we'll be doing that to do the lead service, replacement of lead service lines over the winter. We will have to do some, just public outreach and things too on that, so we'll have to start on that this fall. Mainly we will handle the winter. I think that's everything on water, right? And on sewer. So on sewer, you guys actually covered the main two things I have, is the vortex, or not vortex, the electrical amendment, and then for the aeration tank. So that was the last step you guys needed for the aeration tanks to move forward with that purchasing, right? Your aeration tank equipment. Right. Okay. I think we're good with that now. Okay, good, because I wanted to get that moving. And then I guess on the Portage, I don't have a ton of updates other than it's finally everything took them a little while to get started, but at least from a design and construction standpoint, things are pretty well. We've had to do a little bit of redesign at the lower end to bring it up because the lead was, shallower than we were hoping for. They've run into a couple of spots throughout, up and about. For the most part, they've been able to miss it. And what's interesting is in front of, I think it was Treadway, they dug a test pit on the street. It was only down a couple of feet. They went 10 feet over and they could dig down 11 feet. So and there's a couple of spots where they're digging right along, and all of a sudden there's a big hump of it in the way. So it's just, that's kind of what we're assuming we would find. We're able to deal with it, just that's popping up.
Is that excavation they're doing out here now, is that gonna be dug up again?
There'll be more, yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be redug?
Yeah, at least on top, because that sewer line went in, they'll be redoing it.
No, because I was watching them, they were coming down, they were dumping 3-4 loads of sand in and then just tamping the top part, the top 6-8 inches.
Yeah, a lot of that.
If it's gonna be dug up, it's not gonna matter again, but if it's not gonna be dug up, they should be tamped every 12.
Yeah, I will confirm, I'll double check on it. Most of that, will be dug back up again, but I will double check on that.
If it's gonna be dug up, it don't matter.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be a temporary asphalt cap for the winter, or is that, we gonna be plowing gravel?
No, there's temporary asphalt in for the winter. Yeah. So once they finish, because of the little bit of redesign, they had gone farther up, they're coming back. Once they make this connection back up to Treadway, then they will be starting on connecting laterals, and so people will be connected to the new sewer system in the next couple of weeks. So their goal is to get the sewer system basically in for this fall, and then cap it, and then start up on water and storm sort of spring.
Will they be able to blacktop?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a thin cap on it, but yeah, they're gonna do
I mean,
it.
will they still be able to get asphalt?
Yeah, they're gonna have to play their schedule around when the plant's closed. I mean, you guys are a little bit better off down here than we are in Plattsburgh. They may end up having to haul it in a bit too. So their limiting factor will probably be asphalt, basically.
They think they're gonna get all the laterals done in this season?
That was their original hope. I don't know if they think they're gonna be able to still get them all, but they're gonna have another crew or two coming in. So once they get that going, it should get pretty close. I mean, they can get through, down here, usually asphalt plants close around Thanksgiving, so they've still got 2.5 months. Granted, if the weather turns on us, which,
Tight schedule.
yeah, I mean, we lost 2 months at the beginning of this season, so, but that's at least their hope right now. They're making pretty decent progress once they get going, so. Other than that, I don't know if there's any other issues or anything that popped up that you need to deal with, but as far as I know, everything was going relatively well.
Traffic's flowing good. I mean, they're keeping that.
Seems to be. Yeah.
Any updates on the grant funding for that project?
As far as we know, everything is good. As far as everything I've heard, everything that's been sent out is still good. They just didn't really issue new ones. Of course, they won't tell us really one way or the other, but nothing has been held up.
We have not heard that anything has been pulled yet.
Yeah.
particular grant based on reimbursement, and when we submit reimbursement for this grant?
So what they've done with most of them is back the grant to the end now. A lot of the programs were 50-50. When you submitted the EFC, part of the check that was coming, or the wire that was coming was part grant, part loan. Now, they have largely funded these things to be loan first, grant later.
So it's project completion before, is that what I'm hearing?
Basically, yeah. You can do, with this particular grant, I believe you can do some intermediate ones, but it makes paperwork so cumbersome.
But it's not like we're going out to a bank to borrow money. It's EFC. 0%.
And you're just utilizing the rest of the loan anyway that we had, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, barring the concern of it being pulled, it doesn't really affect you guys because it's all 0% loans. To me, it probably is better that it's later on because I was more worried about them pulling earlier than later, but at this point, who knows? But as far as we can tell, everything's, I guess, we don't have the negative news anyway. It's a game of being positive, but. So.
It would be good, the one thing that might impact though is budgeting. We should get a report out of the EFC to find out where we are grant versus loan, right? Because if we've got a payment, excuse me, if we have a payment next year and we're on loan, it might impact us.
Okay, yeah,
You're gonna learn on that.
yeah,
That's handed to those guys at the county, right?
yeah. Yeah, 'cause I mean.
We'll follow up on that, we'll
Yeah.
get you that.
You are all alone.
Because you're making payments, they're not huge, right? I shouldn't say that. They're not huge compared to, when you get done with the project.
Close enough, yeah.
But you do make payments based on what you've borrowed. Right. So every year you borrow more, it goes up. That's the good thing about the 50-50 grant is, if you generally got 3 to 5 years of the project done, you're not borrowing all that money essentially towards the end.
I mean, it progresses as you go.
Yeah.
Gets more.
So I can tell you at this stage you are on grant because you're on loan. You have 3 main grants for the project. One of them is completely done because it was only for the wastewater plant. One of them, you did receive half of it, but you already received your half because it was based at the wastewater plant.
Okay.
So, and the other one is purely reimbursed at the end, so you are fully on loan for this project then.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll make sure you get that.
Yeah, so we'll just have to work on that a little bit. Obviously if something comes up, or there's issues, particularly traffic control, other things like that, just make sure, certainly let me know, but we've got 2 guys on site, so, every day, that can be, they can deal with it, or my construction manager can deal with it, so. Hopefully don't have too much, but.
I did notice like the fire and the EMS, they should let dispatch know, so it's gonna be good. And you go in your traffic stoppage out here.
And they do it,
The other day we had an ambulance call, we had to go down that way.
Okay. I know they did it at least
I
initially.
mean, we got through eventually,
Yeah.
but they had to stop. So I mean, they should notify fire and EMS.
Okay. They would have initially at the beginning of the job, but with a job this big, we probably should. I guess, there's going to be traffic stopped along the way for the next 2 years. So is it specifically which sections they're working on, or I guess that's the kind of detail, or just somebody they should touch base once a week?
The only thing I based it on was just that one incident.
Yeah.
When they came down through, of course, they had a line of traffic stop. So we had to go around.
Yeah.
But, I guess there's no sense in.
I know they did
It's
it.
gonna happen, yeah.
I know they did at the beginning of the job. I can tell you every workday for the next 2 years, they're gonna have traffic stop there. So the only thing would be maybe which section they're on. Certainly, if we need to touch base with somebody, we can do that. If that's maybe a Monday morning phone call. Well, it's certainly something to bring up. It's certainly something to talk about. We're right in the middle of town for the next 2 years, so I want to make sure we're.
The ambulance shed is right there.
Yeah. Well, I'll mention to those guys, maybe just touch base at least once a month, something like that, just to make sure we're good. Okay. Like I said, if there's issues, just make sure we talk about it the best we can to deal with them. Then the only last thing, I have 2 more quick things. And so one is the Lake Champlain Basin Program, which is the Vortex Stormwater Unit that's out to bid right now. bid opening, I think is the 21st. We gotta get it awarded by the end of the month. We can get the purchasing done later. So some of the bids come in decent. We'll turn that around to you guys before one of your committee or budget meetings to just get the approvals and then we'll go from there.
Did we ever get confirmation on the storage of those? We had that discussion about how long they could be stored for and where they could be stored and did they deteriorate over time? And we had that whole discussion about.
We did?
The vortex units, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna buy them and not, and set them aside because we.
Well, is that for the Lake George? Or is that for the one that?
Lake George.
Like George, that's what we're gonna use the money for, and then they were gonna sit there for a period of time until we could get around to potentially getting some other grants. And my question was, back then, was what is the lifespan of those things sitting there unused? You don't wanna put them someplace and have them sit for 3 to 5 years and then find out that they're obsolete, we just wasted money and now they're just a decoration someplace.
Yeah, I did, but I didn't get the answer to bring you. I will do that for the committee meeting though.
Okay.
So yes, I did bring that up to the guys working on it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep. And then the last thing on kind of a different topic, so we talked about doing a workshop in the afternoon, the next committee meeting day, to go over both the ventilation project and potentially kind of kick off with some of the building conditions type projects. And my architect, I mean, he can come down that afternoon, if that works for you guys to set up a workshop.
That's the 29th, correct?
Yeah. So, if that works for you guys, we can do it. If not, we can certainly schedule something else, but,
What was that again, Greg?
so it's to be one is to have my mechanical person come down and talk through the heating and ventilation issues at the wastewater plant in better detail than I can. I did not. Yeah, and then, the other one was,
Yeah, that's the day of the committee meetings, right? Public safety, highway.
And then the other one was we're gonna bring my architectural team down to just do a little bit of meet and greet, because if you guys start getting into some of your building condition surveys and things, I think we could, provide some guidance, even if it's just literally to have somebody to answer questions and things, or do full assessments, whatever you want, but I wanted to bring them down, meet you guys and kind of talk through a little bit.
So that's for the 29th?
Yeah. So later in the day we could do it, or earlier in the day we could do it, be a little better than right smack in the middle, just because they'll be driving down and driving back, but.
Right. Well, the 29th is when we're here all morning anyways, right?
Yep.
For the most part.
Right, we could take a break for lunch and then come
Take a
back.
break for lunch, come back.
Joe's
Yeah,
been
so
going again.
afternoon would be better.
Yeah.
What's your day? No. Here you go.
Right here?
Okay.
I wouldn't get into that.
No. Okay.
Something like 2 o'clock work?
Yeah.
Is that? I'll let them know, but
Sure.
they're penciled in, so.
What do you estimate your time for that, couple hours?
So I'd say 2 minutes, so it'll last an hour. I was thinking an hour, probably is good, a half hour to go through the plan, and then just, another half an hour or so.
Maybe 2, still.
Okay. Well, I'm just asking. That's fine.
I don't have anything real, the only presentation I have is for Nate to talk through the ventilation at the plant. After that was really just to kind of introduce people and kind of talk through, so that could be as long as we want it to be, but.
Are we gonna be able to understand that? Language,
Especially
language?
when you
You can at least, I can just keep faking it in if you want, but, yeah, Nate's pretty good about kind of talking it through, so. At least it'll sound good, if not does it. But, what I really want to talk about is kind of just some of the urgency and some of the planning for it, because it's actually kind of neat. One of the options is to take the effluent water, the water leaving the plant, and use the heat from that to actually, as part of the heating and cooling of the plant. And it shows pretty good payback, actually, so, I'd like to talk through that a little bit too. So, I think my 2 minutes are up, so.
It's your, you might have to go over a minute.
I think we're good. So we got a lot of stuff in progress, we're just, working on, making sure we've got things planned well, so as we can deal with stuff, but everything that's urgent.
Good. two fully qualified. Outside of Derek, who's qualified in both, we now have two fully qualified operators for wastewater and for water, so. it's good.
Actually, I had one more thing I forgot to mention, and just because I'm sure Derek will be coming back to you guys on it. Just saw from the health department, there's additional testing requirements on the water systems coming for tests, it's actually for the FOAs, so it's standard required test by the state now. I think it starts fairly soon, like next quarter. They're a couple $1,000 a pop, so yeah, they're not giving too much time to budget them. So if I got in touch with Derek, I'm not sure if he knows it, I just saw it yesterday from the health department, so just FYI, that's always pretty good news.
Thanks, Greg.
Yep. Okay. Have a good night.
Thanks, Greg. Drive careful on the way home.
Yes.
Thanks.
So do you want to pass a resolution setting that workshop on the 29th at 2 o'clock?
I'll move it. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So what time do we say for that?
2 o'clock.
Joe's bringing lunch.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony, do you have anything?
No.
Matt, do you have anything? Huh? Oh.
I just had, there's a couple of Article 7 things, one which we'll talk about in executive. One was the Denton property, I sent them a resolution. It was an old case. Patty agreed to drop the assessment for the 2 years. It was 2015 and 2016. I just need a town board resolution to approve that so I can get that case settled. The impact of the taxes was not a ton. It went from, I think it was 87 to 30, 80 to 68 to 37. But it was a situation where we bought a tax up and then turned around and sold it for not much more than we bought it for. So the assessed value would largely be close to the purchase price in that regard. So we agreed at $37,000 for those 2 years. Since then, people have bought it, improved it, and so I just need a motion on that resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
And we will approve executive just to talk about the Article 7 challenges that are pending on the hydrant plant. Formerly, no, I forget the company that owns it now.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah.
Any public comment?
No, but I just have just a question. It's a memory refresher, I guess. What is the deadline that we've got for the position for rec director? Has that gone out? And when does it end?
15th, I believe.
Yeah, that was the 15th, I think.
Yeah.
The 15th?
I believe so.
Okay, just a question, thanks.
Yeah, the court clerk is tomorrow, and the rec supervisor is 15th.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Laura,
No,
didn't
no,
mean to
no,
interrupt.
that's fine.
Yeah.
So Mark and I do the lower and upper Lachute walk tours.
Yes.
The upper one is actually starting this Sunday. But anyway, in doing these walks, we notice how many benches there are in the walk area. And the groundskeepers have done an amazing job of trimming all the bush on the lower Falls Walk. Amazing. And it's almost a shame we don't have more benches or a picnic table here or there, because now it's a beautiful view. And so I just wanted to throw that out to see if there was any way you could throw some picnic benches would be awesome. Picnic tables would be awesome, especially along the curve. But on the lower Lachute, there's only 4 benches to sit. You know, just as you go and turn to the left, there's that area right there that they cleared. There's a huge area that would be perfect for a picnic table.
But where is this, Laura?
The lower Lachute walk.
Yeah,
So you go past Fraser Bridge,
yeah,
you get to the top of the hill and you start to turn left.
yeah.
Right there, they've cleaned all that brush out, and it's a very flat area that would have a beautiful,
There is one, you're talking east of the bench that's on the rocky area?
You're talking to the wrong person about east, north, west, and south, because
Yeah.
I still think I'm going, north
Is it
when I
around
go
the
Amherst, so.
Directly up in the Elks?
Yeah,
Not the
right.
Elks, but the,
It's
KC.
right at the curve, is all I can say, right at the curve, when you go to turn left towards going up the hill, this is going up the
And
hill.
there's a little bridge that goes on to the Rocky Ledge area?
Yeah, that's farther up though.
Okay.
So
There was a bench
there's 4 current benches.
Uh-huh.
One is by Fraser Bridge, but it's not facing the water, it's actually facing away from the water. And then you don't see another bench until you go all the way up, just before the bridge, there's 2 benches probably within about 50 feet of each other. But between the Fraser Bridge and up and over to that area just before, there's no benches at all.
Okay, I did
And-
walk it, but I was looking at the.
Yeah, so I just wanted to throw that out as an idea. And then the upper trail only has 1 bench on the entire trail.
I have to be honest, I haven't been up there in a while.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
I know it is.
The mowing has been wonderful, but they have 1 bench that was dedicated to the young lady that was killed in the accident in Putnam.
Mhm.
That's the only bench in the whole space, and it would be nice to have 1 or 2, or even, like I said, a couple picnic tables. It's so underutilized, and the people are walking in there all the time.
I know they are.
So just wanted to put that out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Thank you.
And I just have one thing, the minutes for the highway and transfer station, they should reflect that Mark Wright was one of the others in attendance.
Oh, sorry, that was my mistake. We can certainly fix that. In fact, I thought I had your name down there, but I guess I missed it.
Ian, do you have anything else? You're good? All right, we'll move a resolution to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation. I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.